Will these babies soon be subjected to a fixed curriculum with tick-box testing and Ofsted inspections, where their every moan, murmur and movement is monitored for educational significance? Well, that's what some fear is about to happen as the government prepares to introduce a new curriculum for babies.
The concept of diktat is one that we shouldn't shirk off, because I think there is definitely an element of that in the way it's defined and in the way there are so many measurements that go at it. I mean, I haven't counted them, but I know there are something like about 500 things we have to achieve.
It has some absurd requirements. For example, make sure the children are sociable from birth. There's another category that says, look at the random marks young babies make in food and water. And then the most absurd of all, in the knowledge and understanding of the world section, which babies have to pay close attention to, it says, look, listen and note how young babies use their senses to investigate a rattle.
I don't believe anybody has got any evidence to suggest that simply having Ofsted doing an inspection is going to kind of drive early years professionals into kind of some kind of league table approach. Not at all.
So the early years foundation stage, designed to coordinate and unify all aspects of welfare and education for children from birth to 5, combining the 3 existing regulations, is not a prescribed curriculum where toddlers will be tested. Or is it? In this edition of School Matters, we investigate these measures due to be phased in by September 2008. Are they too much too young, or the vital missing link in early years provision? Where better to start than amongst the parents and parents-to-be at this high street baby care shop? How do they feel about a curriculum that starts in the cradle?
It's a good idea to start earlier to learn the alphabet or numbers through games and other activities. I think it's a very good idea.
I don't agree that there should be a curriculum for children as young as 0 to 3. Because I think in education things have become too prescriptive.
I'm from Finland, and the approach there is that children need lots of play, so I think they need some sort of structured play, definitely from early on, but I wouldn't have it too structured.
You could actually condemn your child to feeling that it's a failure before it's even started working out what it's good at in life.
Trying to make them grow up too quick, I think. From 0 to 3 they should just let them have a little bit of free time. Playtime to themselves, as we say.
How are they going to test the kid? What they're going to do? It's impossible. My son's never going to go along with someone testing him for anything.
The first proposals for a so-called curriculum for babies were enshrined in the childcare bill that came before Parliament in November 2005. Nothing short of a media frenzy greeted the plans, with headlines like Nanny Blair, Baby Diktat and Big Brother, all condemning what was seen as further state interference in parenting. The publication of a substantial consultative document only helped fuel the fire.
The problem is that there are 6 broad areas in this 105-page document that will land on the desks, which they'll soon have to have in the early years settings, and there are 6 different categories of toddlers. And then there are 16 different requirements within each of those categories. So 6 times 16 times 6 comes to 576 different boxes that practitioners in these early years settings will have to produce files and notes to look at these categories for every child. Now, of course, all these things are important, but they should be left to the professionalism and experience of teachers and nursery assistants in these settings, and not be the subject of huge documents about a national curriculum for toddlers.
I think it must be a very sad person who's gone through the whole document and tried to count up all of those different prescriptions. There are requirements in the early years foundation stage in the sense of the staff having a robust approach to their planning, a creative approach to their planning as to the kind of content that they expose children to. But it's very, very clear the child's experience will be play-based. It will be, as in early years settings now, a mixture of free play and guided play. And I don't think, from the practice that I've seen in many, many children's centres and nursery classes, that teachers will find this a burden.
What tends to happen with this kind of thing is that teachers become worried about it, and they fret over it, and they pore over it, and they have, it sends some into, nervous breakdown sometimes, but they will go through it very conscientiously, because teachers are conscientious and they want to do their best, and they'll end up devoting huge numbers of hours to this document, hours and energy that should be devoted to the children.
Morning, hiya.
But Jo Barr, who runs this children's centre in Bilston near Wolverhampton, is not at all fazed by the new proposals. She says there's nowhere better than here to see how the curriculum, now revised and simplified, will work, because they're already doing it. They're driven by a passion to involve parents.
Over the years, we've managed to push that passion and make it a reality. We have daycare facilities for parents who work. We have parents who are able to access training.
Oh, he likes that.
And in Bilston, it's much needed. This is one of the most deprived areas of the country, where many parents struggle to give their children a good start in life.
Do you want me to hold her while you just sign her in?
We have play and stay groups happening. We have family learning groups happening, and we have health workers who support parents on site.
Practitioners need to work in partnership with parents to discuss their child's interests, what motivates them, what their particular likes and dislikes are, in order that it can be a two-way partnership whereby information flows between the practitioner and the parents.
So we've got some pictures of him holding the snail on the window. What's on my hand? But as soon as he saw the snail, he was like, I want to hold it.
So parents are at the heart of things here. In addition, you'll see outside specialists like artists and health professionals working with the children. Cameras and computers monitoring and analysing play. A town creche that takes childcare to the community. All of which you'll find in the government's revised proposals, reaching practitioners from spring of 2007.
Is the quality of that early years experience that makes the difference for children in preparing them for school, and particularly for children from more disadvantaged backgrounds, in helping them to catch up, so that they really can make progress in their primary years.
Critics say that in the hands of a well-resourced and well-staffed setting like Bilston, this may work, but fear elsewhere, once Ofsted get involved, we could end up with a highly prescribed curriculum.
So you've got people who may pick up this huge weighty document and think, oh, well, here's what I've got to be doing. I mean, there are 71 pages of graphs and analysis. And if they use a sort of tick box mentality on this, then we're very, very concerned that people are just going to interpret literally a lot of what is in this document. And I think that's a huge danger.
Views echoed here at the Angel Nursery in London, part of a charitable network of 15 nurseries which offer affordable childcare to 800 children in the borough of Westminster.
They talk about regulations in relation to welfare, and they talk about guidance in relation to curriculum. I don't think people can understand that, and what's going to happen is the two will be connected, and you'll end up with varying people. It could be your advisory team, it could be the Ofsted inspectors, and indeed parents as well could get confused by this, expecting the whole thing to fit against those things. And that then, to me, contradicts entirely the principle that some of this stuff should be child-led.
They're big on child-led activity here. A recent visit to the Natural History Museum sparked an interest in the Ice Age. A good excuse to play with ice, and meaningful too.
You know why they are pink? Because the ice are cold, so that the blood has to get to the surface to warm us up.
The new curriculum encourages learning through play like this, but could child-led creativity be stifled as practitioners follow a tick list of activity?
My main fear really is creativity gets locked into curriculum concepts, and you'll have some dreadful things like, what I call death by worksheet, inappropriate activities, children learning by rote when they are far too young, all those kind of examples that, we actually do see, even still, even now.
I don't interpret the document as something which is a tick list or hothousing. I interpret the document as something that actually that experienced professionals will use in order to best meet the needs of children.
But it still begs the question, will it be prescriptive? Will childcare professionals have to follow it?
I can't say there's no prescription in it, but it's about how you plan and organise to really help each child maximise their development and to be happy and secure in that environment.
It is prescriptive, it's very prescriptive, and it will become prescriptive because it comes from the government.
And will it lead to toddler testing?
There won't be testing for 2-year-olds or testing as teachers understand that in any part of the early years setting. But what we do want to do is to help, through training, raise the level of competency of the early years workforce so that they can make observational, unintrusive observational assessments of where children are up to in their development.
What happened to the good dragon then?
He's flying back home to that princess.
Princess saying hello to Jenny.
This observation, what the government call look, listen and note, is a very big feature of the work at Bilston. Everywhere you'll find staff photographing children. Mothers use handheld computers to record their child's play and review it with practitioners.
She loves that bell. Can you see she's just chewing on the bell. They fit just nice in their mouth though, don't they, for them to chew. The filming helps because it helps me to see how she's developing and how the nursery is actually helping her to develop further as well.
The visiting artist analyses and deconstructs the toddler's paintings.
And there's a real sense of almost like aesthetic research from the children, that they're trying to find harmony and balance in the paintings that they're doing. And they're working in quite an artistic tradition, which I think is quite amazing when they're considering they're 3 and 4.
It's starting to show a cluster of schemas. I don't think it's purely enveloping. I think the language is coming out more in the last few sessions.
That's the way they get better.
And it's all brought together at planning and reflection sessions like this, where the way children learn is closely examined. But will parents understand the language used? Phrases like cluster of schemas or epistemic play?
I haven't got a clue what any of those things mean. I do think it's a good idea, to give feedback to parents and to help parents. It's the most important job that you ever have in your life, and you get no formal training for it whatsoever. So yes, let's help parents, but let's do it in a way that's really down to earth.
Yeah. So if we put Kim's game to revisit.
Yeah. The language of early years is something which should be opened up, and that parents who want to know more about how their child learns should have the opportunity to do that. And this is really why we introduced the process boards, why we wanted to make hard thinking visible.
And this high-quality provision certainly comes at a price. Top-of-the-range digital cameras, handheld computers worth over £300 each, and the building, which cost £1 million to refurbish and develop.
The building is gorgeous, but the most important thing that we have here is a philosophy. We have a commitment to making sure that we work in partnership with parents.
That philosophy in Bilston, putting parents first and reaching out to the community, is something they value very highly in Sweden too. Over there, they do have a curriculum for babies and toddlers, but unlike our proposed thick tome, it's a very thin document. Barbara Copland, a Birmingham nursery teacher, helped make this film charting the laid-back and relaxed style of Swedish preschools.
They don't have the same emphasis, I think, on the more academic subjects. They concentrate very much on personal, social, emotional development, getting out there playing, much more on the children developing as children, I think.
So what do Swedish teachers think of our proposed curriculum?
They can't believe the amount of paperwork we have, and they don't understand why we need it. One of the comments they've made to us is, our government trusts us to deliver, don't yours.
This document says we don't trust you to do your job, and therefore we're going to set out 576 boxes of things we, the government, think you ought to be doing.
So why can't we have a curriculum like Sweden?
When you've had a country in which there's been a lot of investment, not just for 10 years as here, but for decades, and the training and the status of the workforce reflects that, then you can, I think, more safely have a much lighter touch in terms of the detail.
Let's not forget that private daycare nurseries will also be covered by the new framework. And places like this elegant and well-located kindergarten in Kidderminster would certainly welcome a lighter touch.
My fears are that they're going to tell me to do something I don't want to do.
Heidi Mundy has adapted her Victorian home, where she still lives, into a nursery for 36 children.
I like to explore with the children, have a wonderful time, and if I can justify it educationally and academically, then that's fine. And I hope I can always do that. But if they're going to tell me that I've got to sit children down with a pen and paper and they're not to move for 3 hours, then I think I'd panic and possibly not do it.
How about if you put some more paint on?
Yet Heidi recognises the urgent need to raise and set standards within the childcare sector. She's spotted some appalling behaviour by other practitioners.
We've seen instances of staff taking children out and leaving them in pushchairs and ignoring them for 2 hours while they're on their mobile phones. And that obviously does happen. And that's why you need a framework to improve quality, because not everybody is as morally responsible and aware that children don't just need supervising, they need encouraging and educating.
Now, do we think that this will roll down the ramp?
The activities they do here and the way they involve the children in so much, I think I wouldn't like that to be taken away because some government official or officials think that they mustn't go to the woods on a Wednesday morning because they should be in doing the 3 Rs or what have you.
I am always a little bit nervous about anything too structured or too demanding or too goal-orientated for children of that age. I personally don't think I would need a form or some kind of test result to tell me how my child is.
Of course, the babies and toddlers at Mayfield House are in a very privileged place, which only helps illustrate how hard it will be for the government to construct a one-size-fits-all curriculum.
They need to realise the limitations of some settings. They haven't all got the support of parents that we have got. They haven't all got high staffing levels that we've got. And that all makes a difference. I think they need to alter their expectations according to the circumstances of individual settings, and childminders, of course, as well.
Childminders look after more than 300,000 babies and toddlers, and they'll be expected to follow the same framework that applies to any nursery or setting. All a little alarming for childminders like Penny Bunkle, who's only just heard about these plans.
I found out about it really sort of more on chance than anything else. I think I would have liked to have been more involved, yes, in what was put into the document. Personally, I think it's a good idea to link the birth to 3 with the foundation stage curriculum, because at the moment they're separate documents, and it'll be easier to have like the transition from the one to the other if they're combined. But it's no good just giving people the document and telling them to get on with it, because if it turns up on the doorstep the way it is, people aren't really going to want to look through it, because it's quite wordy and quite lengthy.
Mum, what are we having for tea? Can we have pasta?
If childminders feel they're in the dark about the new curriculum, mothers like Victoria Lee feel just as left out. Despite being a parent governor, she's unsure what it will all mean to her newest arrival, baby Olivia.
I have to say I wasn't actually aware of it until, just recently. So as a parent, obviously I shall wait with interest, with the effect on Olivia. And I guess with all of these things, it's a case of the practitioner using their skills and experience to sort of match what you've got written down to the actual child's needs.
I think if you're clever about it, you can make these things work.
And when it comes to the framework, the really clever part, if it works, will be linking all the various settings and, most importantly, managing that tricky transition between nursery and school.
We've got children that come from 6 or 7 different nursery settings before they come to us at 4 years old, and so there is inconsistency. We're never sure whether assessments are reliable. So certainly if everybody is singing from the same hymn sheet, everybody's using the same documents, then that will certainly help us to hit the children at the right starting point and help us with more liaison as well with the nursery settings.
Triplets Jasmine, Lottie and Chloe all arrived at Lippard Grange in Worcester with a very anxious mom.
We agreed that it was better for them to go into individual classes, and they'd never been split before. So our brains were telling us, yes, that was really good for their own individual development. But obviously, as a mum, my heartstrings were pulled.
But a simple pupil profile provided by the girls' nursery helped ease their passage into school.
It's worked very well for our girls. At least they've got a baseline, sort of know what education levels they're at and their own individual development.
Not all pupils are so lucky. Many, often the more vulnerable, arrive with a patchy history. It's something the head teacher hopes will be addressed by the new curriculum.
Because we have had a change in catchment area, and because we feel that more of the children joining us now are perhaps at a lower starting point, having that earlier intervention with external agencies, with the nursery settings, I think it means that we can target vulnerable children, vulnerable families at an earlier stage.
How many people have you got?
The staff here have found plenty of things they like in the new proposed framework, particularly the emphasis on learning through play.
We have grouped foundation stage and year 1 together because we value the importance of learning through play. And I wouldn't want that then to stop at year 2. I think if the children have the opportunity to take the learning where they want it to go, they're more likely to learn from it and become more effective learners as a result of that.
From what I've seen within the new framework, play plays a huge and important part within it, both indoor and outdoor. And it's absolutely essential for all children to learn through play. Children learn by doing, not by being told. And which way do you think the smoke is blowing? That way. Why do you think it's going that way?
The wind's blowing it that way.
Now teachers like Lindsay must brace themselves for the blaze of publicity being prepared to launch the new curriculum. Training will be a monumental task, and in the first year alone, over £177 million has been set aside for the job. But will early years practitioners be ready by September 2008?
We are doing all we can to make sure that those materials get to them in time for them to look at them, to read them, to digest them, to access training and development.
But there's some concern about how much extra work all this will involve.
A lot of people, I think, are worried about the extra paperwork, the extra training, the extra time it's going to take to implement it.
On website forums like this, early years teachers have been venting their spleen, condemning the new curriculum as a load of rubbish, warning others that it'll drive you crazy, with children being treated as little more than commodities, merely tick-box fodder.
People are worried about the fact that it does take you away from the children, because you're constantly thinking, can they do this, can they do that? When you should be thinking, well, what can this child do? And really enjoying, being with those children.
Someone who supports these exasperated teachers and loathes the idea of lessons and testing for babies and toddlers is author and illustrator Simon James. He's the creator of Baby Brains, a cautionary tale of pushy parents who create the smartest baby in the whole world.
Mrs. Brains opened the door to see her baby sitting on the sofa reading the morning paper. By the afternoon, Baby Brains was helping mend the car. "We've certainly got a bright one here," said Mr. Brains.
I was quite interested in the idea of hot housing children. We're always preparing children for what's next rather than just simply being here. And I felt that it was very interesting that some parents actually want to prepare their children even when they're in the womb.
Baby Brains said he wanted to go to university and study medicine.
It's a lovely book. I loved it. And you could look at it as a little bit of a metaphor as well, not just for pushy parents, but for the government itself, that the government it could be construed as a bit of a pushy parent in itself, trying to prescribe and bring these children on.
Well, the government has certainly pushed the countdown button. The new framework will be in place by the end of 2008. The devil may well be in the detail, but ministers will be hoping that the final draft of the framework will show they've been listening. However, the debate about whether it's a good idea looks set to run on.
We need to have trust in the children and respect their abilities and actually let them grow and develop and learn. And have faith that they will. It isn't all about us.
I think if you're a good practitioner, whether you're teaching foundation stage, 3-year-olds in nursery settings or year 6, you are going to be able to look at a document and think, OK, that may come across as being prescriptive, but I'm going to put my own slant on it.
You know, I'm in favour of a national curriculum for schools and for making sure children learn a certain body of knowledge at different levels of school. But to apply that principle and process to toddlers and 2-year-olds, I just think is taking the whole thing to an absurd extreme.
I don't want to get too political about this, but really, you know, the Conservatives can't have it all ways. It is this government that's put massive investment and commitment into improving the options for parents and improving the quality of what's there for our youngest children across the important areas of development in those early years and in the important issue of standards of care. All settings, no matter where they are going to be working to the same framework.